Hey, Corey, thanks for joining us. Hey, welcome, everybody. Welcome to episode 9 of the StewKast, the wrestling
It's a
podcast.
niner.
What's that?
It's a niner.
It's a niner. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. Thank you for coming here. Hey, like, comment, share, subscribe. This is the StewKast on the Combat Zone Network, a subsidiary of the Fans First Sports Network.
Bad zone.
Of course. Hey, we're going to talk about the Mr. McMahon doc. We're going to go a little bit further into episode 3 and 4 this week, and we're going to do episode with a 5 and 6 next week. So thank you for joining us. Feel free. I have a story that how some of this stuff affected me and my wrestling career and where
An
I was at the
exclusive.
time. Yes,
An
yes.
exclusive story.
In 1995, I can tell you the story. I can tell you the story when I was wrestling in
The
1995.
statute of limitations has expired.
Oh God, yes. Yeah, sue me if you want, Vince. Yeah, sue me for what? All right. So here we go. Let's just explain this. First and foremost, please, the show description has the link to the show sponsor, Hemisphere Coffee Roasters. Great coffee. Click on the link, order, mention our show when you do it. Like I said, like, comment, share, and subscribe. We appreciate each and every one of you. Feel free to comment during the show. We are here live. Enjoy each and every one of you, and we're going to talk some pro wrestling. My friend and co-host Corey Castle at Corey Castle everywhere. I am Lou Marconi at L Marconi 251 on Instagram and L Marconi 1973 on Twitter X. Thank you very much. You guys have a wonderful day today, and we're going to enjoy some wrestling talk. So, Corey, go ahead. You kind of dive right in with what you think of the whole Mr. McMahon thing.
It's I think I've said this already. It's really, I mean, to anybody who's not already a wrestling fan, this is all giving you like new information that you've never had before. But anybody who's been a wrestling fan for the last 30 years, this is all a retelling of the same stories we've heard a million times, except on a wider scale. This has got mainstream penetration. Netflix doing a documentary. I love Netflix documentaries, and I love pro wrestling. Me too. This is a meeting of both things and showing me a best of both worlds. Episode 3 is mostly like a documentary about the WWF more than it is a documentary about Vince McMahon. It's more about Hulk Hogan, and it's more about Wendy Richter, and it's more about Bret Hart, the Montreal Screwjob.
Did you know the Wendy Richter Screwjob story? Did you ever hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that because that was a prelude. It's been done before. Just get the match in the ring and take it from there. He learned that from his dad.
Right.
I remember when that happened. I'm like, Wendy Richter lost to but they didn't go into it. The Spider Lady.
Didn't go.
It was Moolah.
It was into the Moolah thing. Yeah. They were just like, well, we took it from her, and that's it.
Yeah, they took it from her, which they can do that. I mean, they gave it to you. They could take it from you.
Watching it with Alyssa, her not knowing, and she thought the Montreal Screwjob was Owen Hart's death. Like she didn't know. She was like, I never knew what I've heard you talk about the Montreal Screwjob, but I never knew what it was. So I sat with her and kind of broke down exactly like from my perspective, especially as somebody who, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with Wrestling with Shadows. I watched that all the time.
Yeah, that was an A&E documentary, just so people, if they don't know what it is, about Bret Hart and leading up to the Montreal Screwjob. Yep.
I had it on VHS tape. I would watch it all the time. It was so cool to me to see behind the scenes of WWF. Like, you never saw that anywhere. But
no,
when I was a kid, I loved that. I watched it all the time. I was seeing like what wrestling was like for a real wrestler, like a real WWF wrestler on the road.
Right.
And it gave me a good perspective on how I wanted to spend the rest of my life. And here I am.
Yes, here we are. It's not for everybody. That's for sure. The thing that was the Wendy Richter part that led to the Montreal Screwjob and how it kind of gave birth to the Mr. McMahon character is what it was. Because I don't think Vince intended that to happen, because he thought the crowd was going to sympathize with him and they were booing him. They blamed him. Well, they didn't understand the business. Bret was in the wrong. He was in the wrong on this. If you're leaving the company, they're going to let you go out and get a better deal. Do business. Drop the belt.
But the thing is, the thing was, and this is the conversation I was having with Alyssa on it. Like, he hated Shawn Michaels. Him and Shawn Michaels didn't get along. He would have dropped the title to anybody else, and like he would have dropped the title to Mankind or to Undertaker or any like Sid, anybody else. But like to do it in Canada against the guy who he despised the most, like he couldn't put his own pride down to do that, to do the honors that you were, and Vince even said it in the doc. And he was like, "You were granted that. You didn't win that. You didn't earn that. Like, I mean, of course, his hard work earned it, but like, it's not like you won that in a contest. Like you were made that guy."
Yeah. They put the belt on you to draw money is essentially what it is, and it's an honor. It's actually it's a responsibility and honor to be given a belt. What Vince should have done before he freed him up to negotiate, saying, "I can't have you negotiating as my world champion. Where, when, and who do you want to drop the belt to? Let's talk this through." That would have been the smart thing to do. Right. For Vince to protect, because what he was scared of was they were going to go on TV and say they're world and do something, because he couldn't
they
trust.
Just did that with. They showed that they did that with Alundra Blaze and that
Medusa Michelli, absolutely, yeah.
They totally. It would have been helpful to throw in a little bit of her talking, like if they would have got her to sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, maybe they couldn't get her. Maybe they tried to.
Yeah, but there was a lot of people who didn't want to do it. I was listening to Kevin Nash's podcast, and he said he refused it. He didn't want to do it.
Did he say why?
No, probably.
Oh, okay.
He did the Death Who Killed WCW documentary and didn't like it. I don't know.
Okay, maybe he didn't.
I don't know how close those were in production.
Well, the WCW one came out like 3 or 4 months ago, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So it's probably close. Right. You know what? I will, but there was just something that it kind of popped into my head. The Monday Night Wars and the Attitude Era. In 1995, in the fall of 95, I was scheduled to go in for TV tapings. My second go around a year later with WWF. And I guess they called Charlie and they told him, "Hey, we don't need your guys. We're revamping the TV tapings because they're going head to head on Monday night." And they had to redo what they were doing. So they kind of just told us to stay home. And I remember I was disappointed, but Charlie was more mad than anybody. Like, who's running stuff there? What's going on? And what it was is that it was a, how can I put it? It was just the Monday Night War was beginning, and that's when Lex Luger showed up. So the WWF was basically scrambling, and it said, "Just tell these guys to stay home. We're trying to figure this out." And I didn't end up coming back for them again for like a year. And that's when they started using me on a regular basis, when they had to figure out how they had to do TV to combat what WCW was doing, because WCW was making a huge power play to take over at the time. So that's my personal story, that how it affected me. But it was actually pretty good that it did, because I got more experience before coming back, and I worked on my conditioning. And
you were more fit to serve when it was time to serve. Like
it's kind of weird how things happen when they're supposed to for you, when you're ready, you know.
Right.
And that's the way I look at it. I said, okay, I'll get myself ready. So, but anyway, dude, that was my little side story on that. Yeah, like I said, whenever you're leaving a company, you know, and you have the belt, do business and go. And a lot of times back then, Vince said we did handshakes. We didn't have to do contracts. You know, that's the way it was back then. You just said, "Yeah, I'll come in. Okay, we'll pay you." You know, and that's it. That's how it worked. A lot of times you did business by handshakes. You didn't do it by contract. And
that's I think that's still why the business is independent contractor. I still think maybe that's why 1099s exist in the business, and everything like it and like that system that like Ted Turner and Eric Bischoff took advantage of WWF for not adapting is
Mhm.
is still broken in independent wrestling, and it's still broken in the industry of wrestling. Like the fact that nobody's employees and nobody's like making a living wage doing this and still being able to be insured and being able to have
Mhm.
retirement and like that's something that's been missing from
Mhm.
professional wrestling for ever. And
Let's do a timeout real quick. Finish your thought. Finish your thought. Go ahead.
I don't know what the catalyst is to change it. I don't know how to change it. Uh, I, if I was president of the world, I wouldn't know what to do.
No, no, it's the way it is. It is what it is. What I wanted to do, the reason I was calling for a timeout, let's take a moment here to take a break for our sponsors, and we'll do that right now. All right. Thank you for staying with us. Appreciate it. Okay. I just had to put down the time. So, yeah, that's just the way business was. But if you noticed when the talent started leaving Vince in the mid 90s to go to Bischoff, they were saying, well, he did the same thing 10 years before. He killed the
And
territories.
it was funny because I
He's trying to
Alyssa was on
justify
her
him, but it's like, oh, that wasn't bad. I was okay to
Alyssa
do
was
that.
on her phone and not listening, and I was like, "Wait, catch that!" Like I rewound it and got it
Yeah.
back to when the guy was like, "Don't you think what Eric Bischoff was doing was exactly what you did?" And he was like, "No, he was like they were. I was trying to compete. They were trying to hurt the competition." And I was like, "Look, he just got caught like lying. He was exactly saying he was like, oh, I was competing. It's the same stuff." And then they showed the footage to back it up. It was like you can see that like this is the mind of like an unhealthy person as you're watching that unravel right there.
Would you say a narcissist?
A little bit, yeah, because it's like somebody will do the exact thing you did, and you will go, "Yeah, that's not what I did though." But that's not, I didn't do that though. Even though
But
like all
it's
the
almost like it's called it's almost like he was gaslighting. Would you think?
right, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've never experienced that. Have you?
No,
Manipulation?
not once in the wrestling
No.
industry. Not at all. Never. No.
Never,
Mm-mm.
never, never. And just so you know, we are live on Facebook. Facebook feed is working for Fans
Woo.
First and for Fanatical Elves. Thank you. Thank you. No, we
Thank
were
you.
having
Yep.
issues with it before, so that's awesome. Yeah, yeah, then kind of just seeing how things kind of evolve. Oh, the curtain call. Did they explain kayfabe? That was
Right.
awesome. They actually explained kayfabe in this, and I
Yeah.
was like, and the entire
As they were talking about kayfabe, Alyssa was like, she was doing that at me. She's like, "You, that's a word you use all the time."
yeah, yeah, we use kayfabe. Yep.
Yeah,
We
it is a
can,
word.
well,
It,
even Al Snow was saying there was no such thing as kayfabe anymore, but he said that a long time ago when I talked to him. Now he says what it is. It really what it's turned into is don't ruin it for your audience.
Mhm.
Still respect your audience enough to not insult them. You know,
Right.
don't be seen together. Just don't do it. Just like it's just like, yeah, people know it's a work. Okay, fine. They understand it's a show, it's entertainment, but don't ruin the entertainment for
Mhm.
them. So I don't know if that makes sense or not,
'Cause
but
they're ticket buying participants in the whole thing. Like, don't make them feel like they're dingbats and stupid for buying into it.
hmm
Like, we have enough, and this is a Jr. thing. He
hmm
says that wrestling fans are like fat shamed for being wrestling fans. It's it's
I'm
fully
sorry, that
true.
just made me laugh. They're fans like, how can you like that stuff? It's
Right,
fake.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
It's hard enough to justify being a fan of it, but
yeah.
then to have like somebody whose story you're buying into expose the story for being just a story, um, it makes you feel and look kind of foolish. and that's that onus is on us as performers, as wrestlers,
Mhm.
as these storytellers, as these artists. I don't want to say it's artists. I don't want as an artist, but I'm saying like we are painting the canvas with
Mhm.
with our 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 brush strokes are the moves that we do.
Well, I also look at it too, like we're the conductor and the audience is the orchestra. We're, we're dictating things here and there. Oh, what do we got here? We got a comment. Who is this? Good podcast. Do you want to promote it? Oh, thanks, Denise. Denise is trying to help us promote the podcast. Well, la di da, la di da. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for the spam.
Yes, thank you.
I like bread and butter. I like toast and jam.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see. So, go ahead. They talked about kayfabe, and then with that came the curtain call.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you recall that as a fan? You were young. You were in your early teen years.
Um, I I don't I didn't become a huge wrestling fan until a little bit after that. Like
Okay.
I was I was more of a fan like probably after Diesel and Razor were already gone. Um, so I think I can't match up all the timelines of when I became a true fan, but I think like the first thing that hooked me was Brett and Austin at WrestleMania,
Mm,
and then I was kind of
yeah.
like then I was kind of like a, adjacently watching, not like all the way watching all the time, but then once the first Bad Blood happened, that at No Mercy, um, the 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 um, the first Hell in a Cell, Kane debuted, Shawn Michaels and Undertaker in Hell in a Cell. I never missed a match after that. I never missed a Monday after that. I watched every week after that. But
Yeah. I'll, uh, I'll tell you because I remember hearing the news of it and I couldn't believe it happened.
right.
And I said, "Well, who was fired?" And they said, "Well, they said Scott and Kevin left." And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Okay." So Sean's their world champion. So I'm like, "Oh, so he hit behind the belt." And then they said, "Well, Triple H is getting suspended." I'm like, "Oh,
And without that happening, Austin 316 wouldn't have happened, and the upswell and the huge
yeah,
draw that the business became.
yeah." And then they talked about how he let Dwayne talk on the mic to become the star. He was like, he let him talk, and he got over on the mic. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that'll get you over. I mean, he had talent. He had a lot of talent. We saw it from the beginning. So yeah, and then there was The Rock and Austin were like the two big catalysts of that Attitude Era.
Right.
Uh, then we're gonna let's talk about something a little bit more uncomfortable with it. And this, I remember when this happened, and I lost a lot of respect that I had for Vince McMahon when this happened. Owen Hart.
Mm. Yeah.
I remember I was actually this was my last semester in college. I was working on a paper and my phone rang and it was a friend of mine that worked at a TV station that said Owen Hart died. I went, what? They said, yeah, he died. He fell from the rafters. Because I knew what he was doing. I was like, oh shit. So then my phone kept ringing. I had to finish this paper by Monday. My phone, it was a Sunday night pay per view, and my phone kept ringing because I was like a week or two away from wrapping up school. So I just was focusing on that. And people from Steel City called me, people from Philly called me. And it was just like, and Owen was a great guy. I mean, Owen was funny. He was just a really good dude. So, hey, or so, they should have stopped the show. They should have stopped the show at that point. And I think that and Vince trying to justify that too. Like, well, if that was me, hell, well, there, pal. I would have kept the show going. So
Yeah.
that's just,
Dude.
yeah.
Um, I, and I brought up this film a bunch of times, but we were doing a documentary. Me and a friend of mine, my brother-in-law, Anthony Bruno, and
Mm-hmm.
we had an interview with D'Lo Brown, and he was talking about
D'Lo's a good dude. D'Lo's a really good, solid guy.
great guy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about them wheeling the body past him, and that being a moment that he'll never forget. Dude, so much should have been done differently. And when Vince talks about still not regretting anything, he should have regretted not stopping the show and sending everybody home.
Yeah.
I mean, the talent, it damaged people. It damaged a lot of the talent that had to go in there and perform afterwards. And I know I saw Meanie just posted a clip about
how could you perform after that? I'm sorry. What did Meanie say about that?
He just posted a clip online about the blood on the canvas or something, like maybe something about
that was Owen's blood. Yeah,
but it wasn't. It was they did a bloodbath on Matt Hardy with the Brood and stuff before, and it was the gimmick blood from the bloodbath that they did earlier on the show. So it wasn't Owen's blood. But did they say it was Owen's blood on the documentary? Is that why Meanie made the clip?
I think Brett said it.
Okay, yeah.
And I think the other thing Brett said was it was an accident because the police investigated it and the police called him. Yeah. I believe it was in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And the Kansas City police called them and said, we investigated it. There was no malice here. It was an accident. And Owen Hart's widow settled the wrongful death lawsuit. And I know that lawsuit and all that being involved was a huge thing with the Hart family. It kind of ripped the family apart on it.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's like she didn't stay. She didn't keep the kids and the family. Like the family, like he never. Brett said he never talked to her again after, and like the clip, the one clip they showed, it was like he was with her somewhere and he was like holding her hand and they were sitting there talking about it. But then he was like, "Yeah, she never talked to me again." That sucked.
That is strange.
She hated wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And she only hated it more after that happened, I'm sure.
Yeah. I don't know why she did that. I mean, I'm not in her mind. I'm not here, but I don't know if she just kind of separated herself from the Hart family.
Mm-hmm.
It's just strange. I can't imagine having that happen and what she had to go through. So when you're in that mental state, you don't know what they're doing. But that was probably one of the big things was that, and the fact that and it's true, wrestling took the big angle at WCW was Hogan turning heel, and something that Vince would have never have done, but Hogan did it, and it kind of the NWO and everything else resurrected it. And Bischoff thought, this is another thing that was a bullshit with Bischoff. Yeah, I thought it made sense to put me in there. Everybody joined the effing NWO. Everybody did. And it was horrible. It was terrible. It watered it down. It diluted it.
It felt like you were being included because you were the booker. Like it didn't feel. And I mean, I'm saying that as a guy who was only a fan. I was just a kid who was a fan, and I was like, "This guy's not a wrestler. What's the point of And then him coming doing this and pulling the fans posters up and holding them up and shit. Like, you don't have to do all that, man.
No. You didn't have to be involved like that. Right. But and him giving away the finishes and stuff, that was just dirty tactics. That's why Vince couldn't trust him. There's no way he could. Right. So and you don't blame Vince for taking the belt off of Brett the way he did, because he had to do it because Brett wasn't cooperating. So I don't blame Vince for that. Now I do blame Vince for not stopping the show when Owen died. He should have stopped the show, and that would have been it. and said, "Hey, I'm sorry, folks, but we're not going to continue with this. We just had somebody pass away," and the crowd had no idea. I think that what actually happened, they thought it was a part of the show. Go ahead. I'll let you finish up, and then we'll take it home.
Hey, did you see that? That someone asked Tony Khan had he been watching the Netflix documentary about Vince McMahon, and he responded, "No, I've been too busy with football." And his team is like 0-4.
Yeah.
And like people comment in the comments were like, "Clearly, you're not that busy." Like you know, he's such a mark. He had to watch the thing, and he's just no selling it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's another phrase in a thing when they were like, "Oh,
No
don't
selling.
sell it." No. I say that more than anybody else that I've ever talked to. So, when they were talking about that in the documentary, Alyssa was like, "Oh, like very." It seems very rare that like mainstream things are talking about my favorite stuff. So it's making me feel cool and mainstream here for a minute.
Yep. Like maybe I should do some more no selling instead of getting angry.
Oh, I know sell this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
let's no sell the finish here. Why don't we do it? Guys, thank you for joining us. It's the StewKast. We'll be back next. Hulk up, no selling, Hulk up. This was episode 9 of the StewKast Wrestling Podcast. We talked about the Mr. McMahon documentary. We're going to do the episodes 5 and 6 next week. Thank you for joining us. Like, comment, share. Hemisphere Coffee Roasters is our show sponsor. Check it out. Click on it. Order up some coffee. This is the Combat Zone Network. Subsidiary of the Fans First. Yeah, check out Evolving with Corey Castle. Check out the Sunday Stew Pot.
Check out the
Sundays on Rumble. Check out the Fanatical Elves Network, where I work as well, where I do the Burning River Browns Talk and Stirring the Pot with Johnny Cleveland. Burning River Browns Talk also has Sherry, Browns fan girl, on with me, and she has her own show. It's going to be on tonight. It's called Breezy Browns Talk. Good for her. I'm happy for her. So, guys, thank you for joining us. Like I said, comment, like, share, click on everything. Thank you. Have a great day. We will see you next week. Yes, sir, Corey.
This Saturday, I'll be wrestling in Vineland, New Jersey. Next week, Georgetown, Delaware. I will be facing Kalisto from NXT.
Cool.
Then the week after that, I'll be in York, PA. Follow my social medias if you want to check out. If you want to come see me wrestle live. I'm still very active in the wrestling business. People sometimes hear me on a podcast or hear me talk about stuff, and they talk to me like I used to wrestle. I never stopped. I only stopped for that 1 year that I had to. But otherwise, I've been in this business this whole entire time. So
I've
check
been
me out
for 9 years.
Yes. Unlike Lou over here, he went off and had the whole family thing going on.
Yeah.
Me, I just got engaged to be married, but that doesn't mean I'm stepping away from the wrestling business ever.
No, you're not going to stop anytime soon. All right, folks, thank you for joining us. We appreciate each and every one of you. We're up against it on time. Got to be under 30. Thank you. Have a great day. And we'll see you next week. Show's over.
Show's over.